The entire restaurant of Le Ciel went silent the moment the heavy oak doors swung open. It wasn't out of respect. It was out of fear. Arthur Sterling had arrived. The billionaire real estate mogul didn't just demand service, he demanded submission. He had fired 3 staff members in the last month alone just because his water wasn't poured at the correct angle. Every waitress in the room looked down, praying he wouldn't choose their section. But tonight was different. Tonight, there was a new girl standing by the host station, a girl who didn't look down, a girl who was watching him with a look that wasn't fear, but cold calculation. Arthur Sterling was about to learn that money can buy the restaurant, but it can't buy everyone in it. The atmosphere inside Le Ciel, arguably the most prestigious restaurant in downtown Chicago, was usually one of hushed elegance. Crystal chandeliers cast a warm, golden glow over velvet booths, and the air smelled of truffle oil and vintage Cabernet. But at 7:15 p.m. on a rainy Tuesday, the atmosphere shifted from elegant to suffocating. Elias, the floor manager, tapped his earpiece nervously. His forehead was already glistening with sweat. He gathered the serving staff in the back kitchen, away from the prying eyes of the guests. "He's 5 minutes out," Elias whispered, his voice trembling slightly. "Arthur Sterling. His assistant just called. He wants table 9. He wants the 96 Bordeaux decanted immediately, and he wants the music volume lowered by exactly 3 decibels. A collective groan went through the waitstaff. Chloe, a veteran waitress who had worked at Le Ciel for 6 years, actually took a step back, her face draining of color. "I can't do it, Elias," Chloe said, shaking her head frantically. "Last time, he told me I walked like a clumsy cow because my heel clicked too loud on the floor. He made me cry in the middle of the dining room. I won't go back to that table." "I can't do it either," said Jessica, gripping her tray so hard her knuckles turned white. "He threw a napkin at me 2 weeks ago because it wasn't crisp enough. The man is a monster." Elias looked panic-stricken. "Someone has to take table 9. He spends $10,000 a dinner. The owner, Mr. Vance, will have my head if Sterling walks out because of poor service." "Let him walk out," Chloe muttered. "He's abusive." "We don't have a choice," Elias hissed. "Who is on rotation?" Silence engulfed the kitchen. The chefs stopped chopping. The dishwashers paused. No one moved. The reputation of Arthur Sterling was legendary in the city's service industry. He was the CEO of Sterling Heavy Industries, a man worth billions, known for hostile takeovers and an even more hostile personality. He treated service workers not just as servants, but as punching bags for his daily frustrations. "I'll take him." The voice was calm, almost melodically smooth. Every head in the kitchen turned toward the back corner. Maya was leaning against the stainless steel counter, polishing a wine glass. She had only started 3 days ago. She was tall, with sharp features, and dark hair pulled back into a severe, immaculate bun. Her uniform was pressed to perfection, not a wrinkle in sight. She didn't look nervous. In fact, she looked bored. Elias blinked. "Maya? You're new. You don't know who this is." "Arthur Sterling," Maya said, placing the glass down gently. "Real estate and logistics. Recently acquired the Harrington blockade on the waterfront. Divorced twice. Allergic to almonds, though he claims it's a preference, not a medical condition. He hates being interrupted, and he despises it when the server hovers." The room went deadly quiet. "How do you know all that?" Chloe asked, narrowing her eyes. Maya shrugged, checking her reflection in the back of a spoon. "I read the papers, and I pay attention." She looked at Elias. "Give me table 9, but if I take him, I run the table my way. No interference?" Elias didn't hesitate. He was desperate. "He's yours. Just Try not to get fired in the first 10 minutes, and whatever you do, don't look him directly in the eye for too long. He takes it as a challenge." Maya smoothed her apron. A faint, unreadable smile touched her lips. "Don't worry, Elias. I love a challenge." As Maya pushed through the swinging doors into the dining room, the energy changed. She didn't walk with the hurried scuttle of a nervous server. She moved with a predatory grace, her chin high. At the front entrance, the maître d' was already bowing low. Arthur Sterling strode in. He was a man in his late 50s, wearing a bespoke charcoal suit that cost more than Maya's annual salary. He had steel grey hair and eyes that scanned the room like a majestic wolf looking for a weak deer. He was flanked by two younger men, associates or perhaps sycophants, who were struggling to keep up with his long strides. "Table," Sterling barked, not even looking at the host. "Right this way, Mr. Sterling," the host stammered. They led him to table 9, the best seat in the house, secluded in a semi-private alcove with a view of the skyline. Sterling sat down, and before his associates could even settle, he snapped his fingers in the air without looking up. "Menu. Wine list. Now." Usually, 3 waiters would rush over. Tonight, only Maya approached. She walked steadily, carrying the leather-bound menus. She placed them down on the table, not sliding them, but setting them firmly. "Good evening, Mr. Sterling," she said. Her voice was level, devoid of the fawning pitch most waitresses used on him. "I have prepared the 96 Bordeaux you requested. However, the sommelier is currently allowing it to breathe for 4 more minutes to reach optimal peak. I wouldn't want you drinking it prematurely." Sterling froze. He slowly lifted his head, his cold eyes locking onto Maya. "Excuse me," he said, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. "I said I wanted it immediately." "And you shall have it," Maya replied, holding his gaze. She didn't blink. "But you are paying $6,000 for that bottle. Drinking it before the tannins soften would be a waste of your money. And I know you hate wasting money." The 2 associates gasped. One of them looked at Maya as if she had just pulled the pin on a grenade. Sterling stared at her. The silence stretched for 10 agonizing seconds. His face turned a shade of red, then settled back into a pale, icy calm. "What is your name?" he asked. "Maya." "Well, Maya," Sterling sneered, picking up his napkin and shaking it out aggressively. "You have exactly 30 seconds to get that wine on my table, or I will have you thrown out on the street before you can blink. Do not presume to tell me about my palate." "Very well," Maya said. She didn't apologize. She simply turned and walked away. Back in the kitchen, Elias was watching on the security monitor, hyperventilating. She spoke back to him. She actually spoke back to him. "We're doomed." Maya returned with the wine. She poured it with expert precision, one hand behind her back, the label facing Sterling. She filled the glass to the exact measure, caught the last drop with a cloth, and stepped back. Sterling swirled the glass, sniffed it, and took a sip. He seemed ready to spit it out and scream, but the wine was perfect. He set the glass down hard. "Adequate," he grumbled. "We'll order. I want the lobster bisque, and tell the chef that if it is lukewarm, I will buy this building and turn it into a parking lot." "And for the main?" Maya asked, pad ready. "The Wagyu, rare. If it's medium rare, send it to the dog shelter." He waved a hand dismissively at his associates. "Get what you want. Be quick." The associates hurriedly ordered the salmon and the duck. Maya took the menus and vanished. 20 minutes later, the appetizers arrived. Maya placed the steaming bowl of lobster bisque in front of Sterling. The steam was visible rising from the bowl. It was piping hot. Sterling ignored it. He was deep in conversation with one of the associates, a man named Robert. "The merger is dead, Robert," Sterling was saying, his voice carrying across the quiet room. "I don't care if their CEO is begging. I want them crushed. I want their stock to hit zero by Friday. We strip the assets, sell the warehouses, and fire the management. That's how you make a profit." "But sir," Robert whispered, "there are 3,000 employees at that factory. The union—" "I don't care about the union!" Sterling slammed his hand on the table, making the silverware jump. "They are overhead. Cut them!" Maya was standing a few feet away, refilling water. Her hand paused for a fraction of a second, her jaw tightening, before she resumed pouring. Sterling finally turned his attention to his soup. He had let it sit for 5 minutes, while he ranted. He took a spoonful, tasted it, and immediately spat it back into the bowl. "Disgusting!" he roared. The entire restaurant went silent. Guests at other tables froze, forks halfway to their mouths. Sterling stood up, his face purple with rage. He grabbed the bowl of bisque. "I said hot! This is tepid sludge!" He hurled the bowl. It didn't hit Maya, but it crashed against the pillar next to her head, shattering into pieces. Thick, orange bisque splattered across the expensive wallpaper and sprayed onto Maya's pristine white apron and her arm. The hot liquid burned her skin, but she didn't flinch. She didn't scream. Elias ran out from the kitchen, terrified. "Mr. Sterling, sir, I am so sorry. I will firing her immediately. Please, sir." "You better fire her," Sterling shouted, wiping a speck of soup from his own sleeve. "She is incompetent. She let it sit there." "I placed it down 5 minutes ago, sir," Maya said. Her voice was eerily calm, cutting through the shouting. "You chose to let it sit while you discussed liquidating the pension fund of the O'Connor Group." Sterling's eyes went wide. He looked at her, truly seeing her for the first time. It wasn't just the defiance, it was the specific detail. "What did you say?" he hissed. Maya took a step forward, ignoring the bisque dripping down her arm. "You were busy bragging about destroying 3,000 jobs. The soup cooled." "That is physics, Mr. Sterling, not poor service." "Get her out of my sight," Sterling growled, his voice low and dangerous. "Elias, if she is not out of this building in 2 minutes, I will ensure no one in this city ever eats here again." Elias grabbed Maya's arm, his grip trembling. "Maya, go, now, please." Maya pulled her arm away gently. She looked at Sterling with an expression that could only be described as pity. "I'll go," she said. "But you might want to check your email, Mr. Sterling. I believe the deadline for the O'Connor merger was 7:20 p.m. You missed the filing window while you were yelling about the wine." She turned on her heel and walked toward the kitchen. Sterling froze. He scrambled for his phone, his fingers fumbling. He unlocked it, scrolled, and his face went ashen white. He slumped back into his chair, the phone slipping from his hand onto the tablecloth. The dining room remained silent. Maya pushed through the kitchen doors, where the entire staff was staring at her in horror. "You're insane," Chloe whispered. "He's going to destroy you." "Do you know who he is?" Maya grabbed a towel and began wiping the bisque off her arm. Her eyes were hard, dark flint. "I know exactly who he is," Maya said softly. "He's the man who killed my father." The kitchen was paralyzed. The hiss of the grill and the clatter of pans seemed to fade away. "What?" Elias whispered. "Killed. Maya, what are you talking about?" Maya tossed the dirty towel into the hamper. She began to unbutton her ruined apron. "Not with a gun," she said, her voice devoid of emotion. "With a pen. 7 years ago. My father was the CEO of Linley and Cobsall Logistics. It was a family business. We treated our workers like gold. Then Arthur Sterling decided he wanted our shipping routes." She looked up, her eyes burning. He launched a hostile takeover. He planted false stories in the press about embezzlement to tank our stock price. He bribed board members. He stripped the company in 3 months. My father lost everything. The house, the business, his reputation. He had a heart attack 6 months later. Stress, the doctors said. But I knew it was heartbreak. Chloe covered her mouth with her hand. Oh my God, Maya. I was 22, Maya continued. I was in business school. I had to drop out to pay for the funeral. I've spent the last 7 years working my way back up, gathering information, waiting for the moment he was vulnerable. And tonight? Elias asked, looking at the door. What was tonight? Tonight was a test, Maya said. I needed to see if he was still the same arrogant, sloppy man he was back then. He is. He's so focused on being feared that he stops paying attention to the details. But he fired you, Elias said sadly. I have to let you go, Maya. I can't keep you here. He'll sue us. Maya reached into her pocket and pulled out a small, sleek flash drive. She placed it on the metal counter. He can't sue you, Elias, because in about 10 minutes, he's going to be arrested. The staff gasped. Arrested? Jessica squeaked. Here, now. Why do you think I took the job here? Maya said. I knew this was his favorite spot. I knew he holds his off-the-record meetings at Table 9 because it's secluded. What Mr. Sterling doesn't know is that Table 9 has a loose floorboard near the wall, and 3 days ago, before my first shift, I slipped a high-fidelity listening device under the molding. Elias's jaw dropped. You bugged the restaurant. I bugged him, Maya corrected. For the last hour, he has been admitting to Robert, his lawyer, about bribing the zoning commissioner for the waterfront project. He explicitly detailed the account numbers in the Caymans where the bribes were sent. He feels safe here. He thinks he's untouchable. Maya looked at her watch. I sent the audio file to the FBI Cyber Division and the Chicago Tribune 5 minutes ago, right before I served the soup. They should be pulling up now. As if on cue, the wail of sirens pierced the night air outside. Blue and red lights flashed against the high windows of the dining room, strobing through the kitchen portholes. No way, Chloe breathed. Maya took off her apron completely, revealing a sharp, professional blouse underneath. She smoothed her hair. Elias, she said calmly, I suggest you go out there. You're going to want to see this. The wail of the sirens outside Le Ciel wasn't just a noise, it was a physical force that vibrated against the floor-to-ceiling glass windows. Inside the dining room, the hush that usually accompanied the arrival of Arthur Sterling had transformed into a confused murmur. Diners were craning their necks, napkins half raised to their mouths, as blue and red lights washed over the expensive tablecloths. Arthur Sterling, however, remained oblivious to the shifting tide. He was still fumbling with his phone, his face a mask of pale shock as he stared at the missed deadline notification for the O'Connor merger. The realization that a waitress, a nobody, had distracted him long enough to cost him millions was a poison in his veins. Robert, Sterling snapped, finally looking up at his lawyer. Get the car. We are leaving. I'm going to ruin this place. I'm going to sue them for emotional distress, for incompetence, for... Mr. Sterling, Robert said, his voice trembling. He wasn't looking at his boss. He was looking at the front entrance. The heavy oak doors of Le Ciel burst open. It wasn't the maitre d' holding them this time. 4 agents wearing FBI windbreakers over tactical vests strode into the restaurant. Behind them, 2 uniformed Chicago PD officers secured the perimeter. The lead agent, a tall woman with eyes like flint named Special Agent Miller, scanned the room. She didn't look at the trembling host. her gaze locked instantly onto the secluded alcove of Table 9. "Arthur Sterling!" Agent Miller's voice boomed across the restaurant, silencing the murmurs instantly. "Place your hands on the table where I can see them. Now!" Sterling blinked, his arrogance momentarily shielding him from reality. He stood up, indignantly straightening his jacket. "Do you have any idea who I am? I am dining. If you have questions about my taxes, speak to my accountant in the morning. Now get out of my sight before I call the commissioner." Agent Miller didn't break stride. She marched up to the table, flanked by 2 agents. "Arthur Sterling, you are under arrest for federal bribery, wire fraud, and conspiracy to commit corporate espionage. I said, hands on the table." "This is preposterous," Sterling spat, his face flushing a deep, dangerous red. "Bribery? You have no proof. This is harassment. We have the audio, Arthur." A voice cut through the tension. It wasn't the agent. It was Maya. She had emerged from the kitchen doors, no longer wearing the stained apron. She stood in her black slacks and white blouse, looking less like a waitress and more like an executioner. She walked slowly toward Table 9, her heels clicking rhythmically on the hardwood floor. Sterling whipped his head around, his eyes bulging. "You did this?" "The recording is clear," Maya said, stopping 10 feet away, safely behind the line of FBI agents. "You detailed the bribe to Commissioner Holloway. You mentioned the offshore accounts in the Caymans, specifically the Shell 4 account. You even laughed about how cheap it was to buy the city's integrity." Robert, the lawyer, slowly stood up and backed away from the table, raising his hands in surrender. "I didn't know about the bribe, officers. I was just here for dinner. I represent him in civil matters only." "Traitor!" Sterling screamed, lunging at his lawyer. "Restrain him!" Agent Miller barked. 2 agents slammed Sterling against the table. The fine china rattled, and the expensive 96 Bordeaux bottle, the one Maya had poured so perfectly, tipped over, spilling its blood-red contents across the white tablecloth and onto Sterling's grey suit. "Get off me!" Sterling howled as the handcuffs clicked shut around his wrists. The sound was distinct, a cold metallic snap that echoed through the silent room. "I am Arthur Sterling. I own this city. I will buy your badge. I will bury you." "You have the right to remain silent," Agent Miller recited, pulling him upright. "I suggest you use it, though I doubt you have the capacity." As they dragged him toward the exit, Sterling fought them. He kicked a chair over. He looked wild, a cornered animal stripped of its dignity. Every diner in the restaurant had their phone out now. The flash of cameras strobed like lightning. The invincible billionaire was being paraded out like a common criminal. Just as they reached the door, Sterling dug his heels into the carpet. He twisted his body around to look at Maya one last time. His eyes were no longer just angry. They were filled with a chaotic, murderous promise. "You think this is over?" he screamed, spit flying from his lips. "You think a little recording stops me? I will be out by breakfast. And when I am, I will find you. I will find everything you love, and I will burn it to ash. Do you hear me? You're dead, girl. You are nothing." Maya didn't flinch. She didn't look away. She stared at him with a calm, terrifying intensity. "My name," she said, her voice clear enough for the cameras to pick up, "is Maya Linley. And I'm not nothing. I'm the bill collector, and you are past due." Sterling's face went slack with recognition. The name Linley hit him like a physical blow. Before he could respond, the agents shoved him through the doors and into the rainy Chicago night. The restaurant remained dead silent for 5 seconds after the door swung shut. Then, pandemonium erupted. The diners exploded into chatter. Phones were frantically tapping out tweets and texts. Elias, the manager, collapsed into a chair, looking like he might faint. "Maya," Elias wheezed, loosening his tie. "What have you done? He's right. He'll be out on bail in the morning. He has armies of lawyers. He's going to come for us. He's going to destroy the restaurant just to spite you." Maya turned to Elias. Her expression was grim but determined. "He can't destroy the restaurant, Elias," she said, pulling her hair out of its severe bun and letting it fall around her shoulders. "Because he doesn't own the building." "Mr. Vance owns the building," Elias argued, "and Sterling will pressure Vance to sell. He's done it a dozen times." "Mr. Vance sold the building this morning," Maya corrected. Elias blinked. "What? To whom?" Maya walked over to the POS system and tapped a few keys, printing out a receipt. She handed it to Elias. It wasn't a receipt for food. It was a transaction record from a holding company. "To Valkyrie Holdings," Maya said. "My company." The kitchen staff, who had crept out to watch the drama, gasped. Chloe dropped a tray of silverware. "You're a millionaire?" Chloe asked, eyes wide. "I did well in crypto and tech startups after my father died," Maya said, her voice softening as she looked at her co-workers. "I have money, Chloe. But money doesn't fix what he did. It doesn't bring my father back. I needed him to confess. I needed him to destroy himself." "But he's not destroyed yet," Elias warned, looking at the door where the police lights were fading. "He's wounded, and a wounded bear is the most dangerous thing in the woods." Maya looked out the window at the rain-slicked streets. "Let him come. I've spent 7 years building a cage for him. Tonight was just closing the door." Arthur Sterling was released on bail at 8 a.m. the next morning. The bail was set at $20 million, a record for the district, but Sterling posted it within an hour. He walked out of the precinct wearing a fresh suit delivered by his assistants, sunglasses shielding his eyes from the horde of paparazzi that had camped out on the steps. He didn't say a word to the press. He simply got into his armored limousine and made a single phone call. "Get me Grant," he growled into the phone. Grant was not a lawyer. He was a fixer, a man who operated in the grey zones of corporate warfare. If you needed a competitor's factory to have a sudden strike, or a rival CEO to have a sudden scandal, you called Grant. 20 minutes later, in the penthouse of the Sterling Tower, Arthur stood staring out at the city. Grant sat on the leather sofa, scrolling through a tablet. "Maya Linley," Grant said, his voice raspy. "Daughter of David Linley. You crushed her father's company 7 years ago. She vanished off the grid for a while, reappeared under various aliases, working in high-end hospitality in London, New York, and Dubai. She's not just a waitress, Arthur. She's an operative." "I don't care what she is," Sterling said, crushing a crystal tumbler in his hand. Shards of glass fell to the floor, but he didn't seem to feel the cut. "I want her obliterated. She humiliated me. The stock dropped 12% this morning. The board is calling for an emergency meeting." "She owns the building that houses Le Ciel," Grant noted. "Clever. She bought it through a shell company yesterday. You can't fire her, and you can't pressure the landlord to evict the restaurant." "Then we burn it down," Sterling said, turning around, metaphorically. "I want health inspectors there every hour. I want the liquor license revoked. I want the immigration status of every dishwasher checked. I want the suppliers to stop delivering food. Starve them out." "That's petty," Grant said, bored. "And slow. If you want to hurt her, you have to hit her where she's vulnerable. The father is dead. No siblings. No husband. She's isolated." "Everyone has a weakness," Sterling hissed. "Find it." Grant tapped the screen. "I did find something interesting. During her vanished years, she spent time in Switzerland. There's a medical record. She wasn't just working. She was paying for care, for a child." Sterling froze. A slow, cruel smile spread across his face. "A child. A daughter," Grant confirmed. 6 years old. living in a private boarding school in Zurich under the name Sophie. Maya Linley keeps her hidden. Very hidden. Sterling laughed. It was a dry, jagged sound. She thinks she can play war with me? She brought a knife to a nuclear fight. I don't care about the restaurant anymore, Grant. I want custody. Custody? Grant raised an eyebrow. How? Fabricate it, Sterling said, waving his hand. Claim her father embezzled from my company back in the day, which we can forge easily, and that the funds used to support the child are proceeds of crime. Get an international freeze on her assets. If her accounts are frozen, the school doesn't get paid. The child gets kicked out. Child services gets involved. That is incredibly dark, Arthur, Grant said, though he didn't look displeased. She embarrassed me, Sterling whispered. I will take her child, and I will make her beg me to give her back. Do it. 3 days later, the atmosphere at Le Ciel was grim. The restaurant was empty. Sterling had made good on his threats. He had used his media connections to plant stories that the restaurant was infested with rats. A health inspector, clearly on Sterling's payroll, had cited them for 20 violations in 1 day. Maya sat at table 9, the very table where it had all started. She was looking at a laptop, her face pale. Elias walked over, carrying 2 coffees. It's bad, Maya. The produce delivery didn't show up. The supplier said they lost the order. But I know Sterling threatened them. And the reservations everyone cancelled. Maya didn't answer. She was staring at an email on her screen. Her hands were shaking. Maya? Elias asked, concerned. What is it? My accounts, she whispered. My personal accounts in Switzerland. They've been frozen. Interpol notice. Suspected money laundering. Elias sat down heavily. He's attacking your money. But you said your money was clean. It is, Maya said, her voice rising in panic. But it takes months to prove that. He knows that. He's choking off my liquidity. Her phone rang. It was a Swiss number. Maya answered it immediately, putting it on speaker. Ms. Linley? A stern woman's voice spoke in German-accented English. This is Headmistress Steiner from the Alpine Institute. I know, Maya said, her voice cracking. I know the payment bounced. Please, Mrs. Steiner, it's a banking error. I will fix it within 24 hours. It is not just the payment, Miss Linley, the headmistress said. We had a visit from a solicitor today. A Mr. Grant. He claims to represent a creditor who has a lien on your family's assets. He was asking questions about Sophie. He asked to see her. Maya stood up so fast her chair fell over. Did you let him near her? Of course not, the headmistress said offendedly. We have strict security. But he left a document. It is a court summons. They are petitioning for emergency guardianship based on parental negligence and criminal endangerment. Miss Linley, who are these people? They are very powerful. Maya felt the room spin. Sterling wasn't just attacking her business. He was coming for Sophie. Sophie, who was innocent in all of this. Sophie, who was the only good thing left in Maya's life. Do not let anyone near her, Maya commanded, her voice turning to steel. Lock down the school. I am flying there tonight. She hung up the phone and looked at Elias. The tears that had threatened to fall were gone. In their place was a cold, absolute rage. He crossed the line, Maya said quietly. I wanted to put him in jail. Now I'm going to bury him. How? Elias asked. He's cut off your money. He's attacked the restaurant. You can't fly to Switzerland. If there's an Interpol notice on your accounts, they might flag your passport at the airport. Maya looked at the empty restaurant. He thinks I'm just a waitress who got lucky with crypto. He thinks he's fighting Maya Linley, the daughter of a bankrupt logistics manager. She walked toward the kitchen, grabbing her purse. He forgot one thing, Elias. What? I didn't just spend 7 years making money, Maya said, stopping at the door. I spent 7 years making friends. Friends who hate Arthur Sterling as much as I do. Friends in very low places. She pulled out a burner phone, an old, cheap flip phone from the bottom of her purse. She dialed a number. It's Valkyrie, she said into the phone. Initiate Protocol 0. He targeted the girl. Yes, take the gloves off. Release the black ledger. All of it. Arthur Sterling was celebrating. He sat in his private club, swirling a glass of scotch, surrounded by his sycophants. The headmistress called me in a panic, Grant reported, sitting opposite him. Maya tried to book a flight, but her passport was flagged just as we planned. She's trapped in Chicago. She can't get to the girl. She's running around like a rat in a maze. Sterling chuckled. Excellent. Let her sweat for another day. Then I'll offer her a deal. She drops the testimony, retracts the audio recording, and publicly apologizes to me. And I'll allow her to see her daughter again. You're a strategic genius, Arthur, one of the associates said, raising a glass. To victory, Sterling toasted. Suddenly, the large television screens mounted on the mahogany walls of the club flickered. The news channel, which had been playing a muted report on the weather, suddenly cut to a breaking news banner. The headline was in bold red letters. Sterling Industries linked to human trafficking ring. Sterling froze, the glass halfway to his mouth. What? The anchorwoman looked grave. Breaking news coming out of Washington. A massive data leak, dubbed the Black Ledger, has just been released anonymously to every major news outlet and the Department of Justice. The documents appear to show a direct financial link between Sterling Heavy Industries and a shipping container network used for smuggling illegal immigrants and illicit arms across the Atlantic. That's a lie, Sterling screamed, standing up. That's impossible. Those files were deleted years ago. Grant looked at his tablet, his face turning ghostly white. Arthur, it's not just the shipping files, it's everything. The emails, the bribes to the judges in 2018, the cover-up of the factory collapse in India, the private security footage from your office. Shut it down, Sterling roared. Call the IT department. Kill the servers. It's not on our servers, Grant said, his voice hollow. It's everywhere. It's on Twitter. It's on Reddit. It's on the dark web. Someone just uploaded 4 terabytes of your personal data. Sterling's phone began to ring. Then Grant's phone. Then the phones of every associate at the table. It was a cacophony of digital panic. On the TV screen, the image shifted to a live press conference. It wasn't the police. It was a video message. A figure sat in shadow, their voice modulated. But the silhouette was unmistakable to anyone who looked closely. The posture, the sharp bun. My name is irrelevant, the voice said. But the truth is not. Arthur Sterling didn't just ruin companies. He ruined lives. For years he has operated above the law because he bought the law. Today the receipt is printed. To the shareholders of Sterling Industries, sell. To the victims, speak up. And to Arthur. The camera zoomed in slightly on the shadowed figure. You shouldn't have threatened a mother. You thought you were fighting a waitress. You were fighting a ghost. The screen went black. The private club was silent. Every member was staring at Sterling. People were slowly backing away from him, as if he were contagious. Grant, Sterling rasped, clutching his chest. His heart was hammering against his ribs like a trapped bird. Fix this. I can't, Grant said, standing up and grabbing his briefcase. I'm done, Arthur. I'm not going down for human trafficking. That's a life sentence. You work for me, Sterling screamed. I worked for a billionaire, Grant said coldly. As of 5 minutes ago, looking at the stock market. He showed Sterling the screen. Sterling Industries' stock was in free fall, a vertical red line dropping off a cliff. "You're not a billionaire anymore. You're a liability." Grant walked out. Sterling stood alone in the center of the room. The Scotch glass slipped from his fingers and shattered on the floor, echoing the crash of his empire. Meanwhile, at Le Ciel, the scene was very different. Maya sat in the kitchen, watching the news on a tablet. The staff was gathered around her, wide-eyed. "You hacked him?" Elias whispered. "But how? That kind of data. That takes a team of NSA-level experts." "I told you I made friends," Maya said, rubbing her temples. She looked exhausted. "The Black Ledger wasn't just my work. It was a collective. There are a lot of people Sterling hurt. Disgruntled IT directors, fired secretaries, engineers he cheated. We've been communicating on an encrypted forum for 3 years. We were waiting for the right moment to drop the bomb." "Why didn't you do it sooner?" Chloe asked. "Because we needed him to be under arrest first," Maya explained. "If we leaked it while he was free, he would have fled to a non-extradition country. But Agent Miller confiscated his passport yesterday during the initial arrest. He's trapped in the US. Elias smiled, a slow, dawning grin. "He's trapped here with the wolves." Maya's phone rang. It was Agent Miller. "Ms. Linley," the agent said. Her tone was different now, respectful, almost awed. "We just received the data dump. My God. If half of this is true, he's never seeing the sun again." "It's all true," Maya said. "And Agent Miller?" "About my daughter." "We know," Miller said. "We saw the fabricated court order Sterling filed. We've already contacted the Swiss authorities. The hold on your accounts is lifted. The request for custody has been flagged as fraudulent. Your daughter is safe." Maya let out a breath she felt like she had been holding for days. Tears finally spilled over, hot and fast. "Thank you." "Don't thank me," Miller said. "But stay put. We're sending a unit to pick you up. Not for arrest. Protective custody. Sterling is desperate now, and desperate men do irrational things." "I'm at the restaurant," Maya said. "Lock the doors," Miller commanded. "We're 5 minutes out." Maya hung up. "Lock the doors," she told Elias. "Now." But it was too late. A heavy crash sounded from the front of the restaurant. The glass of the front door shattered inward. Arthur Sterling stood in the frame. He wasn't wearing his suit jacket. His tie was undone, his hair wild. In his hand, he held a heavy, silver-plated pistol. He didn't look like a tycoon anymore. He looked like a madman. "Maya!" he screamed, his voice cracking. "Come out! We're going to finish this!" The sound of Arthur Sterling's voice, usually a cold baritone of command, was now a high-pitched, jagged shriek. He stood in the entryway of Le Ciel, the rain lashing against his back through the shattered glass door. The silver pistol in his hand shook violently, sweeping across the dimly lit dining room. "I know you're in there," Sterling screamed, kicking over a pristine host stand. "You ruined me. You took my money. You took my name. Come out and face me." Inside the kitchen, the staff was huddled against the back freezers. Chloe was sobbing silently into her hands. Elias was gripping a heavy cast-iron skillet, though his hands were trembling so hard it rattled against the stove. "Stay down," Elias whispered to the group. "The police are coming. Just stay down." Maya stood near the swinging doors. She wasn't trembling. Her face was pale, but her eyes were focused, calculating. She looked at the terrified faces of her co-workers, people who had spent years being bullied by men like Sterling, people who were now in the line of fire because of her war. "He's not going to stop," Maya whispered. "He's going to start shooting blindly into the kitchen in a minute." "Don't go out there, Maya," Jessica hissed, grabbing Maya's wrist. "He'll kill you." Maya gently removed Jessica's hand. "He doesn't want to kill me, Jessica." He wants to be seen. He wants to feel powerful one last time. If I hide, he shoots everyone. If I go out there, he focuses on me. Before Elias could stop her, Maya pushed through the swinging doors. The dining room was a landscape of shadows. The only light came from the street lamps outside and the flickering emergency exit sign. Maya walked slowly into the center of the room, her hands raised, palms open. "I'm here, Arthur," she said. Her voice was calm, anchoring the chaos of the room. Sterling spun around. He leveled the gun at her chest. His appearance was shocking. The man who had obsessed over the crispness of a napkin was now disheveled, his eyes bloodshot, his shirt stained with rain and sweat. He looked like a king whose castle had burned down around him. "You," Sterling breathed, stepping over the broken glass. "You little rat. You think you're smart? You think leaking a few files makes you better than me?" "It wasn't a few files, Arthur," Maya said, holding his gaze. She didn't step back. "It was everything. The world knows about the trafficking. They know about the bribes. They know about the factory in India. It's over. It's not over until I say it's over," Sterling roared. He fired a shot into the ceiling. Plaster rained down onto the tables. In the kitchen, the staff screamed. "I built this city!" Sterling yelled, the gun wavering back to Maya. "I provide the jobs. I move the economy. Who are you? A waitress? A nothing? You served me soup yesterday. You are beneath me." "I am the daughter of David Linley," Maya said, her voice rising, cutting through his hysteria. "The man you drove to a heart attack for a 4% increase in your quarterly earnings. Do you remember him? Or was he just another number?" "He was weak," Sterling spat. "Just like you. And now, I'm going to end the Linley line permanently." He cocked the hammer of the gun. The click echoed like a thunderclap in the silent room. Maya stared down the barrel. In that moment, time seemed to stretch. She thought of her father, dying in a hospital bed, worrying about her tuition. She thought of Sophie, waiting for her in Zurich. She thought of the 7 years of loneliness, of playing the role of a servant to catch a monster. "Go ahead," Maya said softly. "Shoot me. But look out the window, Arthur." Sterling blinked, confused. "What?" "Look at the street," Maya commanded. "Look at what you really built." Sterling's eyes darted to the shattered front window. Outside, the street was no longer empty. It wasn't just the police. A crowd had gathered behind the police barricades. Hundreds of people. They weren't cheering for him. They were holding signs. Former employees, union workers he had crushed, families of the victims from the factory collapse. They stood in the rain, watching the downfall of the tyrant. "They aren't here to fear you," Maya said, taking a step forward. "They're here to witness you. If you shoot me, you don't become a martyr. You just become a murderer. You prove everything I said was true. You prove you're nothing but a thug in a suit." Sterling's hand began to shake uncontrollably. He looked at the crowd, then at Maya, then at the gun. The narrative he had built for himself, that he was a genius, a titan of industry, was crumbling. He wasn't a titan. He was just a lonely man with a gun in a restaurant he didn't own. Sterling stammered, his lip quivering. "I am Arthur Sterling." "No," Maya said, now only 5 feet away. "You're inmate 8940. That's all you're going to be." Sterling let out a sob. It was a pathetic, broken sound. The gun dipped. In that split second of hesitation, the kitchen doors flew open behind Maya. It wasn't the police. It was Elias, the manager who had spent 10 years bowing and scraping to men like Sterling, charged forward with a roar, swinging the heavy cast-iron skillet. "Get away from her!" Elias screamed. Sterling turned, startled, but he was too slow. Elias swung the skillet with all the pent-up rage of a decade of servitude. The iron connected with Sterling's wrist with a sickening crunch. Sterling shrieked and dropped the gun. It skittered across the floor. "Now!" Agent Miller's voice boomed from the entrance. Flashbangs detonated in the entryway, filling the room with blinding white light and a deafening bang. An armored tactical team swarmed through the broken doors. Maya dropped to her knees, covering her head. She felt the rush of wind as bodies moved past her. When her vision cleared, Arthur Sterling was pinned to the floor by 3 officers. He wasn't fighting anymore. He was weeping, curled into a fetal ball, crying for his lawyer, crying for his mother, crying for anyone who would listen. No one was listening. Agent Miller walked over to Maya and offered a hand. "Are you hurt?" Miller asked. Maya looked up. She saw Elias standing over the gun, breathing hard, the skillet still in his hand. She saw Chloe and the rest of the staff peering out from the kitchen, safe. Maya took Miller's hand and stood up. She smoothed her skirt, regained her composure, and looked down at the sobbing billionaire one last time. "No," Maya said. "I'm not hurt. I'm just finished." 6 months later, the winter snow had melted in Zurich, replaced by the vibrant greens of spring. Maya sat on a bench overlooking the lake, a small paper cup of hot chocolate in her hands. "Mommy, look!" A little girl with pigtails ran toward her, holding a drawing of a flower. Sophie. She looked healthy, happy, and safe. The fear of the last few months had begun to fade from her eyes. Maya grabbed her daughter and pulled her into a tight hug, burying her face in the girl's hair. "It's beautiful, baby. It's perfect." "Are we going back to Chicago?" Sophie asked, looking up. "Yes," Maya smiled. "We have work to do." Back in Chicago, the landscape had changed. The Sterling Tower had been seized by the government and was being repurposed into affordable housing and a community center. Arthur Sterling had pleaded guilty to avoid the death penalty for the trafficking charges. He was currently serving 4 consecutive life sentences in a maximum security federal prison in Colorado. His assets had been liquidated to pay restitution to his victims. But the biggest change was at the corner of 4th and Main. The sign that said Le Ciel was gone. In its place hung a simple, elegant sign made of reclaimed wood. The Linley table. The restaurant was full, not with snobby billionaires who demanded silence, but with a mix of people. Businessmen sat next to teachers, artists ate next to construction workers. The atmosphere was warm, loud, and joyous. Elias was still the manager, but he no longer looked stressed. He was laughing as he poured wine for a table of tourists. Chloe was the head waitress, training a new hire with patience and kindness. Maya walked through the front door, holding Sophie's hand. The staff stopped what they were doing and broke into smiles. "Boss is back," Elias called out. "Not boss," Maya corrected, taking off her coat. "Partner." Maya didn't go to the office. She didn't go to the VIP section. She walked to the back, grabbed an apron, and tied it around her waist. "Table 9 is open," Chloe said, winking. "We have a difficult customer. Says the soup is too cold." Maya laughed. She walked over to table 9. An elderly man was sitting there, looking grumpy. "I've been waiting 10 minutes," the man grumbled. "Do you know who I am?" Maya poured him a glass of water, with perfect precision. She placed the menu down gently and smiled. A real smile, not a servant's mask. "I don't know who you are, sir," Maya said softly, "but I know you're hungry. And at this table, everyone gets treated like a king. What can I get for you?" The man blinked, surprised by her warmth. His grumpiness melted away. "The roast chicken, please." "Excellent choice," Maya said. She turned and walked toward the kitchen, her head held high. She had taken down a titan, recovered her family's honor, and saved her daughter. But she had never forgotten where she started. Maya Linley was a millionaire, a hero, and a mother. But tonight, she was proud to be a waitress. The story of Maya and Arthur Sterling is a powerful reminder that dignity is not defined by your bank account, and true power is not about how many people you can control, but how many you can protect. Arthur Sterling believed his wealth made him untouchable, but he forgot that the people he stepped on were the very foundation he stood upon. Maya proved that intelligence, patience, and courage can topple even the biggest giants. In a world that often rewards arrogance, be a Maya. Treat every person you meet, whether a CEO or a server, with the same level of respect. You never know who is standing across from you, and you never know when the bill will finally come due. If you enjoyed this story of justice and redemption, please hit the like button to support the channel. Don't forget to share this video with your friends and subscribe for more powerful real-life drama stories every week.